So a extremely good morning from the UK. I am really thrilled to have, going up by the minute, 210 people joining us for our Activating Strengths for Resilience webinar with myself, Trudy Bateman at Cappfinity, and Sue Langley. I will pass over to her to do an amazing introduction. So thank you all for entertaining us over the past 10 minutes with where you are from. I think I'm already blown away by the global representation of everybody who's made the effort today to come on board. Some of you, it's later in the evening. I hope you're sort of relaxing as well from your day. We know that there's a few nice glasses of wine going out there, making me in the UK a little jealous already. It's 9 AM, but I'm really looking forward to the next hour with you. So just a very quick introduction of myself. So I've been at Cappfinity now for about 10 years, strengthening people, and where I get my absolute passion is by building tools to help strengths embed in people's lives. So that's the kinds of things that we'll be doing here today. Cappfinity have got offices in the UK, Australia and the US. There is another session like this next week as well for the afternoon for any US folk. I've known Sue now for around, I was thinking about this last night, Sue, about 9 years. So I think we first started our journey together of strengthening the world, and so I'm absolutely delighted to be bringing you this webinar with someone very close to the topic and to us here. So Sue, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here today with us and for strengthening everyone that's joining. And I'm going to hand over to you for the next part.
Thank you very much, Judy. That's fabulous. And it is a pleasure to be here and see so many people on the call. We're already over 250 people, which is amazing. And really is lovely that we're covering the globe. So my name is Sue Langley, for those of you who I don't know. I started the Langley Group 18 years ago, focusing on the practical application of emotional intelligence, positive psychology, and neuroscience, and how we bring it to life through leadership programs, culture development, those sorts of things. And I will just say, Trudy, it must be 11 years, because I met you in 2009 at the Wellbeing Conference at Warwick University, where you first launched what was the Realise 2.
Wow, you know, when you get to our age, though, you do try and take a couple of years off here and there.
What do you mean, all right?
My age.
So it's lovely to be here. I spend most of my time all of my time in the positive psychology space, focusing on the positive strengths-based approach. So what we're going to do is just go through an overview of the session, and Trudy's got control of the slides, so she's going to be moving them on intuitively when I'm ready. Oh, look, I've actually got light in here now. So we're going to go a little bit through your strengths today. Then we're going to have a look at balance, finding balance. So what does that mean from a strengths and resilience perspective? We're going to look then at how your unrealized strengths may help you. We're going to look at how managing weaknesses, if you are finding during this time your weaknesses are causing you more risk than they have previously. And we're also going to look at resilience in others, so how you might help support other people with their resilience. And then a few next steps. Just to kick off, and I think most of you have already found all the details that you need, but please use the chat to share. You can either do all panelists, which it be defaulted to, or you can change it to all attendees. You can raise and lower your hand, but to be honest, we'll probably ignore you because we're going to have 300 people on, and we just don't have the time to take people off. But if you do have something you want to ask, put it in the chat window or the Q&A if you wish. If it's a private one, you can put it in there, no problem at all. But we really would like this to be interactive. So our first little activity for you, on the screen is going to appear some images. And we're going to do a little exercise that I've done many times with many people that may even be on this call. But we're going to use this for a reason of trying to see, well, how does it link back when we talk about strengths? So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, and this will probably be pretty easy for you, but thinking about yourself in your worst mood, I'd like you to choose an image on the screen that represents you in your worst mood and tell me which image and why. So you've got 1 to 12 images there. If you go from left to right in the 2 rows, which image are you choosing? The fire, the chains, and how does it represent you in your worst mood? And I'm going to explain mine, and then I'm going to ask Trudy to explain hers. But while we're doing that, just type in the chat box and let us know about you. So Julie's picked 4, but tell me why. So if I think about myself in my worst mood, I'm actually at the moment going to pick number 1. And the reason I'm picking that first one is because it's a corridor with no end. And at the moment, as I'm sure many of you probably feel, it's like we don't know where the end of the tunnel is. We're in self-isolation. It'll be different in different countries, but we don't quite know what the end is going to look like. We know it won't look the same. And partly that's exciting for me. But the worst mood bit is when I feel trapped and contained, don't know where I'm going. But also, I don't know what's behind the doors, and I feel hemmed in. I feel I can't think clearly. I feel potentially overwhelmed by what could be coming in from the sides. And I'm really not thinking clearly, but I'm feeling boxed. I'm feeling contained. So that's mine. I'm going to have a look at what we've been getting before I quickly go to Trudy. So 4 being chaotic, lady in the puddle, oh, I'm drowning. Oh, Amy, I'm sorry to hear that. The chains, well, again, thank you. What else have we got? Chains from New Zealand, I feel constrained. We've got trapped and chained down from Paula, great to have you on. Lorraine, number 4, everything's just whirling and things are speeding up, feeling overwhelmed and trapped. Number 7, Jessica, thank you. I love this one because I feel alone in a sea of problems. There's a ripple effect and my problems grow. I love that. And that's actually Hooker Falls in New Zealand, for those of you in New Zealand. Chris wants number 8. I tend to get bogged down with the small details when I'm in a bad mood. Okay, can't see the wood for the trees. I love that example. We've got the raging river from Michelle. Lots of emotions flooding at once. Brilliant. I love that one. The horse out of control when we're in our worst mood. All right, I can't read all of these because we've got 300 odd coming in. Oh, number 12, free fall, not feeling grounded. I love that. So while I'm looking at some of these, Trudy, tell everybody which one would you pick and why when you're in your worst mood?
I think I'd have to agree with an awful lot of people who are coming on around the chains. I think that sort of that trapped feeling, but I was reflecting how it would be totally different. You'd have asked me this 6 weeks ago, and how we're all in the same space together, feeling the same emotion, but choosing to represent that in a different way. So most definitely those chains and wanting to break them.
Thanks, Trudy. And I notice there's quite a few around the fire as well. So when some people are in their worst mood, they might be a bit more fiery. Okay, wonderful. All right, so now let's flip it. And I'd like you to think about you in your best mood. So think about when you're in your absolute best mood, which image would you pick? But more importantly, why? What do you like when you're in your best mood? So I'm actually going to pick the fire for my best mood, because when I'm in my best mood, I feel like I'm on fire. I feel like I can achieve anything. Just like a fire, I'm crackling with ideas and energy, and things seem possible. But also the reason I like the fire card is because I imagine, and I actually was there when this was taken, a group of people could be sitting around it and coming together and feeding off that crackling energy. So I think when I'm at my best, I can see things clearly, I can take people with me, I've got that energy, and I'm crackling with ideas. So that would be me. So Trudy, what about you in your best mood?
I think there's quite a lot of pictures here, isn't there, where you're on your own, and I love people. So I was thinking about the carousel here. So I'm quite fast-paced in life and work, and being on that carousel, taking people on a journey, being at the theme park with my kids, and feeling that excitement of what's coming next. So yeah, that was immediate for me, that one.
I love that. And we've got some really brilliant ones here, like number 12 being picked because it's exhilaration, freedom, energy. Again, willing to take risks. And I love this one, Augusta, thank you. Abroad, preferably in Italy. And you're absolutely right. Number 2 is Italy at Siena. Charles, thank you. Number 5, and the trees, because I feel calm and serene. And again, Aina's got that from number 6, calm, clear-headed. So it's interesting, isn't it? Some people are picking the calm, the clear-headed, I know where I'm going, I'm centered. And then other people have got, like Andrew, the river, full of energy and direction and able to push through. Dita's got the full of energy, raring to go with number 4. So we've got that interesting mix, haven't we, of best mood can be calm, and when we're centered and everything is going well and we're in control, we know what we're doing. Exactly as Robin said, the buildings, because I'm ordered, I'm in control, etc., everything's organized. But then we've also got that higher energy, that possibility that we can tackle anything. Wonderful. Well, thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't able to read out all of them, but we've got some beautiful examples coming through. So let's see how this links from a strengths perspective as we get further in. So if we continue on, many of you already know this. You probably wouldn't be on the call if you didn't realize how much benefit there is to strengths. And if you look at the research around strengths, there is a lot of research around strengths from an individual perspective, whether it is things like your confidence, goal achievement, performance. The CLC study found 36.4% increase in performance by focusing on strengths. Engagement scores go up. So if we are using our strengths roughly 70% of the time, we're probably highly engaged at work, but also resilience, which is what our sort of focus for the session today. But equally, from an employment perspective, if you are engaging your strengths every day, then your employer is probably going to see increases in your customer satisfaction scores. Employee retention rates go up from an employment perspective. Productivity, creativity, all those really cool things are increased when people get to use their strengths every day. And then if we go on to look at in education, strengths are being used more and more in education. I know we've got numerous clients here, universities, colleges that we're working with around strengths in schools. And when you think about this, again, students are potentially 30% more engaged if they're tapping into their strengths. Their work readiness, their articulation of strengths to go into the workplace. And great, Jojo, thank you. And again, Trudy's going to talk more about the career guide that's sort of relatively new still, that can really help this. But I will just give you a story from a student perspective. So before the strengths profile was the strengths profile, so a few years back when it was sort of R2, it was only meant to be 18 years and above. And we had one of our clients who had done it, an adult in the workplace who had done it with us as part of the leadership program we were running. And she contacted us and she said, can you use it with my daughter? And I said, well, it's, 18 plus and blah, blah, blah. And she said, she's 17. And I said, look, I'm sure we can, happy to do a debrief with her. Anyway, so she did the expert profile, she did the debrief, and her daughter was just about to give up her studies. She was really struggling and was just about to give up her studies. And we had the debrief, and I spoke to her mum literally sort of 3 months later, and she said, it's like a whole new person. She's got her strengths mapped up. She's found little images that she puts all around her desk. Every time she's getting to something she struggles with in her studies, she's pulling out her strengths, and this is what I'm doing. And anyway, she ended up absolutely nailing it, and they ended up doing it with her younger sister for the same sort of thing. So from an education perspective, I know I've got that lovely story of somebody succeeding when they're on the verge of giving up around education. There's a great... Jojo,
yeah, I was just going to say, Jojo, I've got a 12-year-old, and I have to say I am pretty naughty, no adherence, one of my weaknesses. And I have done the strengths profile with her. In fact, because I was using her as a guinea pig when we were testing the career guide, and it was just brilliant. It was her to a T where she is today. I think the basis is obviously she'll grow. Or your children will grow, but it definitely captured where she was, and actually it really highlighted some careers that I could absolutely see her in. So yeah, maybe not permission, but if you've got no adherence, I would just go for it too. Thanks, over to you, Betsy.
Well, no, it's all you now, I think, isn't it?
Over to you on your profile.
Oh, I've got to talk about my strengths today first, of course, before I hand to you. So I thought what Trudy and I would do is talk about strengths today, as in how we might be using them a little bit differently, perhaps, with things that are going on right now. And then Trudy's going to take you through some interesting statistics of what they're finding is changing. So what you can see on the screen is my sort of that snapshot, that initial quadrant. I haven't given you all the 60. And it's really interesting what I'm finding I'm using at the moment. I'll give you a couple of examples. So like many people, of course, our business has been impacted. 90% of our work is face-to-face. From a leadership perspective, I've been having to do some things from a leadership perspective that I've never done before. And it's been really interesting for me of legacy, mission and self-belief. So every Monday we have a town hall meeting with the team, and sometimes I'm delivering some not very exciting news. But I've really been using that and trying to tap into what is the message that I'm trying to send, what is the legacy I'm trying to leave behind, what is the goal, etc. And it's been really interesting, and I feel very grateful that my team, whether it's verbally or they've sent me little messages, text messages or something afterwards, have actually said what amazing leadership that I'm demonstrating at this point in time. And although my situation is really quite horrible, you know, having to have conversations with people that you really care about, I'm actually finding those strengths really valuable for me right now. The other one that I think is work ethic and narrator. I've always had very strong work ethic. I love my work ethic. I work a lot, and with Time Optimizer pretty much all the time. But the narrator, I'm doing 90% of stuff now, well, everything virtually, but I'm doing literally webinar after webinar after webinar. I had 3 yesterday. I've got, I think, about 20 next week. And I love telling stories, imagining the fabulous people like yourselves down the end of the phone. So I'm finding actually my strengths are really working for me right now with how I'm feeling. The centered bit, I'm having days of being centered and other days that are maybe not quite so centered. So what about you, Trudy? Which ones are you really drawing on right now?
Brilliant, thank you, Sue. And I just wanted to there's some great comments about having doing strengths profile with your teenagers or your early 20-year-olds and kids in there. Remember, it's free for the next 8 days. Absolutely go for it with family members, and please do encourage them, because, you know, especially if people are going on this journey of maybe not knowing what their future looks like, you can really help them just get those insights. So absolutely 8 days, family, you know, really take advantage of the fact that it's free. So yeah, so I think I'm the same, really. So I've done my strengths profile so many times, and my top 7 don't really change an awful lot. There's a few that sort of sneak out and come in, but I am, like you, Sue, you may potentially using some of them differently, or I'm looking at them differently. So legacy has always been really important to me, because I'm always future thinking. So our vision at Cappfinity is to strengthen the world. Now, I can't do that on my own. Sue can't help me do that on her own. So it's about you, how we can reach you, so you can go on and strengthen people. So I'm always thinking about how we can, build more tools to do that. But I guess today, my legacy is around the impact that we can have in this time. What kind of positive impact can strengths have that will remember this time maybe more positively, the things that we used, the things that we drew on, things that really helped us. So getting just, and obviously the free strengths profile in April is part of that. Imagine, so off the top of my head now, I think we've got about 8,000-9,000 people that have taken it, the strengths profile for free. That's just amazing that that's going on behind the scenes. I also think drive for me as well, and supporting others to be a little more driven and focused on what the things that we are in control of today, and how we can actually take that forward, and helping other people to think about the actually great future that we do have ahead, and the things that we can get done today in that drive, rather than maybe drive sort of becoming a little bit less consistent. So yeah, some different strengths. Those of you who are already using chat and enjoying it, as we can see, the questions coming. So if you look at your realised strengths, which one, we'd love just to see some chat, which one do you think you're dialing up more than ever right now? In a good way. So these are all ones in a good way, things that you're using.
And Lorraine's got a question there about, are these ordered by rank? So do you want to take that one, Trudy? Those under realised strengths, she's listed her top 7.
Yeah, so they're absolutely according to the performance, energy and use, and that score overall. So yeah, you will find your number 1, you're using more, you're more energised and you perform better. But you might find in that 7, whilst they're ranked, that there may not be a huge difference. So I always like to look at them as a combination, because they will help us do different things.
There's some great comments here. Celia's said that her strengths profile has been incredibly therapeutic after a few weeks of high anxiety, woke up on the lockdown thinking about my profile and felt calm. I have to admit, I've got mine here. It's literally stuck on my screen, and I use it periodically. I look at it and go, oh, I've got a tough conversation to have, or what can I use right now? So that's a great one, Celia. I love that. And I like Beth's. I'm enabling all over the place. That's gorgeous.
Quite a few gratitudes coming through, which is lovely to see, and that links in with the data that I'll share with you shortly as well.
Yeah, and I love Augusta. Thank you, narrator, because she started blogging. Never had much time for it, enjoying it enormously. That's so cool. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. It's great to see some of the strengths that perhaps you're using in a different way as we go forward over the next few weeks. I think the most important thing is obviously you're using your strengths in the right way, so that you can give yourself the energy, give yourself that resilience, give yourself a bit of a buffer at the end of the day. So I just want to share with you some data, if I may. Just half a slide here that you've got. So at the top here, what I'm going to share with you is our strengths today versus this time last year. So at the top are our strengths last year. So this is what we would call our norm data. So the most common quadrant strengths that are coming through for the general population. So that's about 60,000 it was taken. It's a global representation. So you see humility there, pride, resolver, relationship deepener, all being really sort of dominant strengths coming through for the world, again across these 60,000. So we use that as our norm data to know kind of what are the most common themes coming through. For those of you that know Sue and I, we're always talking about the work ethic as the #1 learned behaviour. So we can work well, we're good at it, and we're doing a great job, but we do know that there's more to life out there sometimes. So, you know, we use these to kind of watch out for other patterns that are going on. So what I wanted to share with you is yeah, that's absolutely Paula, it's the global norm. And so, you know, this data we use a lot just to sort of benchmark other data. So I thought what would be helpful is if to take a snapshot of where we are now today and see if that's changed, see what the patterns are that are coming through, what are we using more of now. So let's just have a look at that. So on the plus side, what are we doing more of, more than ever right now? I did see this in the chat coming through. So growth was the #1 sort of significant difference that was coming through in what we are using more of right now in our realised strengths. And it makes sense, doesn't it? We're all having to grow, maybe technology or learning new ways of working. Maybe we're learning new skills because we're in a different place in terms of potentially furlough or you know, becoming a home teacher suddenly overnight. So lots of different ways in which we're growing. So that makes sense. I guess to do that, we're having to be a lot more self-aware about what's going on emotionally and physically, spiritually, even with us. We saw some incubator coming through on the chat as well. So, you know, I guess that's sort of really thinking about how that's going to really benefit people in terms of, remember, strengths, things they're loving doing as well. So the incubator really enjoying that time out to reflect, time out with family, and the gratitude we saw as well. Some really great some comments already coming through on the gratitude, but I know, you know, personally, it's something that that's what, when people say to me, how are you today? And I say, I'm one of the lucky ones. Despite the challenges, I always feel like we're one of the lucky ones. So some lovely strengths coming through of what we're using more of.
And Trudy, before you go on to the ones we might be using less of, there's a couple of good questions about the bar at the top.
Yeah.
Asked why is time optimizer is both a weakness and an unrealized strength, and also Kate was asking about sad to see self-belief is in the weakness. So I wonder if you might want to address those.
Absolutely, of course. So time optimizer coming across, essentially these are the most common unrealized strengths that we have. So time optimizer appears as a common unrealized strength, but actually it also appears as a common weakness. So what that does mean is it doesn't often appear, or less often in a realized strength or a learned behavior. So, as an example, you might have, it appears in time optimizer as an unrealized strength 20% of the time, but it might appear as a weakness maybe 25% of the time, still making only up about 45% of the data. So, and certainly from my coaching, I know that is practically that's I see it, and for me, I'm always giving the advice: get clear on your goals, and time optimizer really can be driven forward or be managed a lot better. It's about people not knowing what their vision is and what their clarity is, and certainly in team environments, and we are seeing that again more than ever now. And self-belief, yeah, absolutely sad that it's there. I mean, remember, it's in the top 3. It doesn't mean that it's sort of, everybody has it. It's just one of the most common weaknesses. And again, self-belief is always something I think that strengths absolutely help confidence. So by playing to your strengths, not really just put a pen through it and think, if I can just use my strengths more, I'm going to grow in confidence because I'm going to perform better, I'm going to have more energy, I'm going to be more resilient. So if you can focus on all of those things, then self-belief can sort of naturally start to just sort of fade out or be less impact. Yeah. Jojo saying about competitive being a weakness and he's allergic to it. I love that because it is, again, absolutely we see it time and time again as humanity. In so many times we see competitive there as a weakness. And do you know what? It's one of the easiest ones, I think, to overcome, because humility is so important to us that competitive naturally will sit there. Because if you think in the opposite side, number one, realized strength that we are using the most in the world is humility. So it's a kind of opposite to
and just if I can share an example for those that were mentioning about self-belief, I had a lovely example. One of our diploma students had her debrief before showing up for the diploma, and she started her own business and sort of gone back to work after having some time off by herself. And she'd had her debrief, and self-belief was her weakness, and she was getting all wound up because she had a client meeting coming that was a potentially big gig for her, a first sort of big engagement. And after her debrief, she just went, who cares about self-belief? I'm using my relationship deepener and my competitive and my this, that, and the other. And she said she just felt so energized, she just nailed the meeting. So it gave a beautiful example about how, yes, in theory, as was said, it's sad maybe that it's there, but as you said, Trudy, if we use our other ones, maybe it's not so sad, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. I think I've had also an experience where we've been using the cards and someone's just turned the card over, the coaching cards, and said, well, that's going to make that irrelevant to me. And I think it's, certainly, imposter syndrome comes up in that space as well. And all of those things can really help by using the strengths. So there's a lot coming through in chat because there's many of you. What I'm going to suggest is we've got, so Lauren and Lizzie are on the call with us as well to answer questions. So if your QA is maybe something that's a little bit more around data or what you need, or maybe, access to things afterwards, or some things like coaching. Jojo's a coaching card, so Lauren's going to be on hand in a minute giving you a link to where you might find those. So all of that could potentially go in Q&A, almost like the one-to-one questions, if you like, and then we'll keep chat for the questions that we're asking you, because we are absolutely blessed to have 350 of you on the call, and we want to get to as many of you as we can. I did notice something on gender, and it's an equal balance of gender and self-belief, slightly higher for men, but not sort of ridiculously higher. But there was a slight impact. So now I'm going to show you what we're using less of. And remember, this is not their weaknesses, they're not learned behaviours. We are just slightly using these strengths less right now. And again, this makes absolute sense, doesn't it, when you look at it? So they're in order. So resolver is the one that has had the biggest drop right now as to where we were. You see resolve as number 3 in the world. So resolver then dropping. And I guess maybe it's around, well, to me it says that we don't have the answers. We like solving problems, but this is too big for most people. So really thinking about, you know, what are the problems maybe we can solve today, the things that are in our control and remit. Personal responsibility again makes sense, because driving, ownership, well, there's certain things that are out of our control right now. So a lot of this felt to me like people being in control and not having the answers. But again, you know, it's one to watch when you're working with people, your kids, or for yourself. If these are things that you're dialing back on a bit right now, you know, how can you do more in this space? What are the things that are going to help you make the better decisions or act on things or be a bit clearer on time? So I thought this data was really interesting, and if you're a coach, it's one to watch as you're working with others in these things are starting to drop. And this data was taken just a couple of days ago, so it's pretty fresh, and it's only of the last 3 weeks that I've taken this data. So who knows where we'll be in another 3 or 4 weeks time on this data. But you know, what if you're a coach, one to watch and how you can help people continue that strengths journey and doing more with their strengths around here. Super, thank you very much for letting me share data. We love data, and we will be no doubt sharing an update on that with you. So the next piece I just want to talk around, and again, obviously get your chat and opinion on, is finding balance. So balance is all around using the right strengths in the right time, in the right way. And what that means is using it optimally. So I guess if you think about what is a realized strength, it's something you're really good at, and you really love doing it, and you really like doing it a lot. So in that space, there's a tendency or a possibility to think about overplaying a strength. And I think today it feels apparent more than ever, and it's not going to help your resilience, because you're going to be banging that drum repeatedly, doing the same thing, and you could get drained. You know, your foot is on the pedal essentially on that same strength because it served you well up until now, but potentially the landscape has changed so much that we need to be looking at our strengths and making sure we are calling on the right ones at the right time today. And that might look a bit different. Maybe it's just around, you know, using them differently. Maybe it's about dialing some up and dialing some down. So it's really important that we find that balance right now, particularly when, you know, we have lost a bit of focus, there is anxiety, and we don't know what, you know, the future could potentially look like for us. So before we sort of go to chat and share, I just wanted to just for a bit of a strategy, I guess, around how we would recommend you use the right strategy, the right strength at the right time. And I think that the most important thing is to just have a look at those 7. So when I'm coaching, and I'm sure Sue's the same, I ask people to look at their 7 and I say, you know, which one might you be overplaying? And there's always a smile, there's always one that just jumps out off the page at you. You know which one it is that you've maybe been overplaying, or the one that you could be in danger of overplaying. So, you know, just have a look at your list and think about which one's jumping out of the page at you. If you think about what others really know you for, that could help you think about what you could potentially overplay. So if I know, oh, I'm always known for this, it's like, okay, you know, it's just not a warning sign, but potentially just something to clock. What do others know you for? So all these are ways in which you're sort of, it means that maybe you're using these quite a lot. Which ones serve others? So if you think about humility being our #1 strength in the world, we are often wanting to help and support others, which is brilliant, but sometimes we need to help ourselves too, particularly now, today. Are we serving everybody else right now? Our future customers, our team members, our family members, our neighbours? What about us? So think about any that serve others. They tend to be the ones that get overplayed quite a lot. And then think about the ones that are going to help you cope more for you personally, you know, to make you more resilient. You're going to serve others better. So those are the ones that are going to need to be sort of looking at now and thinking maybe about differently. Which ones personally do you think are more of a coping mechanism for you. So certainly for me, I absolutely can overplay personal responsibility. It's my number one strength. So that says I will get it done all of the time, anything you ask me, which means I can be on call 24 hours a day, or it might mean that I want to take charge and ownership of everything, and that's not always where I need to be. So personal responsibility for me, I absolutely want to support and help others. Vision and mission is so strong, it derails me sometimes. So we've all got them. And I think, you know, it's really important to just recognise, you know, I mentioned my oversharing. If you were on the call earlier, I was sharing about some inside out label on my my running, and all of a sudden my humour can often get overplayed. You overshare with humour sometimes. So we've all got them. They're brilliant strengths. They're going to help you become more resilient, but do watch them, particularly in these COVID times, as we're working in different ways. And we're going to need to use them differently. So just clock that. So you know the questions coming. Some of you are doing it already. Esteem builder is being overplayed there. You know, just share with us a bit around what you might be overplaying. Coping mechanism on action there for Julie. Absolutely. Give me something to do right now. Give me something that I'm achieving, doing. I did spend.
And Trudy, I know we were talking about this before. My number one strength, realised strength, has always been time optimizer, and I'm actually being okay right now. Not sorry, there's a motorbike going past. Not having to fill every minute of every time, and I do weird things like I set an alarm on my phone for, you know, an hour's work and then 15 minutes off. But if I spend 15 minutes doing a jigsaw puzzle, it's okay. Whereas a couple of months back, I would only ever do them on a weekend. So I'm kind of allowing my little time optimizer to drop, and I'm allowing my incubator, which is interesting for me, to come up. So I think, as you say, it's sort of interesting how we balance these out. But there was a good question, Treveni, thank you. You asked about distinguishing between people associating realised strength with personal brand. And I think it's really interesting because you do often become known for your top strengths. Like if I look at my top two of time optimizer and work ethic, everybody in my business knows I work all the time. It is absolutely part of my personal brand, if you like, of who I am. Same as spotlight and narrator, of standing up and telling stories and anecdotes. So I think it can become part of your personal brand. It's part of who you are. Your top realised strengths are absolutely critical to who you are, and I'm sure Trudy would agree. I know Trudy well, humour is absolutely part of who you are.
And actually, I would want, you know, I talk about overplaying it, but it's my absolute coping mechanism right now, and I don't know where I'd be without it. Absolutely, and I've got new appreciation for absolutely my humour. But I guess the piece is, yes, we are as people, as parents, as colleagues. We are known for a certain set of strengths, probably your key ones we would call them, but just watch them today. Watch them as we're working in totally different ways, that you don't get burned out on some of these. And there's some really, you know, some great examples here around how this is coming out. And I think just as we're working differently, it's one to watch. Yeah, please.
This has come up a few times, and Christy's just mentioned this. I'm being careful to overplay gratitude given the survivor syndrome. And I think that's a really interesting one at the moment. We had gratitude come up a lot. And sometimes you can feel really grateful, I'm so lucky, etc. And it is definitely a very valuable coping mechanism. But sometimes it's also okay to go, this is not fair and it's not nice too, and experience the downside. Because sometimes it can make us either the survivor syndrome or, but actually I feel sad or I feel anxious too, but oh, I'm meant to be grateful. So it's a great balance that Christy's sort of highlighting there.
Yeah. I think that goes back to this, you know, naming what you're feeling, isn't it? And being really open to that. So certainly with my 12-year-old who's lost her friends right now, you know, she's really struggling, and I say it's awful. You know, what you're feeling is really sad, and then, you know, helping her address that afterwards. But you have to acknowledge where we are, and for everybody, I've been writing tips every day for the strength tips. If you haven't found them already, I'm on, I think, strength 40 this week, and I've been writing strengths tips for how to cope in COVID with those particular strengths, and you know, it's all about, you know, where we are today and how we get the most out of being resilient in the strengths that we've got and how we're using them today. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I can just imagine, Trudy, if you said to your daughter when she was feeling sad, well, you should just be grateful, you're luckier than most, that would be really
she hates
annoying.
it. Absolutely hates it. She hates perspective. She's 12. But you know, I think acknowledging it, and you know, she's been in tears. We delivered cookies to her best friend a couple of days ago and left them on the doorstep. And seeing her friend was making her really upset, actually, on the doorstep, waving and acknowledging it and talking about it and planning the sleepover worked really well. So I'm just conscious of time, and I'm just going to look at the unrealised strengths now. So in your kit, and then I'm going to hand back over to Sue, in your kit of resources, in your profile, you have an amazing set of strengths called unrealised strengths. They are the things that you are good at, you are energised in, but right now you've turned them down, and that's fine, because we don't have energy for everything in life at all 60. So it's good to have some unrealised strengths of things that we've got potential in. But of course, right now, asking us to sort of use a different skill set is a perfect time to look at those unrealised strengths and think about, what is it that I've got that I could be doing differently, or how can I use more of things that give me energy? And again, the more energy, the more resilient you are. So I did an exercise, and I do consider myself a strengths expert. No humility there for me on that piece, but I did come up with some surprises when I did this exercise. So I looked at my top 7 unrealised strengths. So they're them that you can see in the left-hand side. My growth was my top unrealised strength, pride being my number 2. I then put them in an energy order, and I guess that's when I look at them and I think, do they make me smile? Am I excited by them? Do I love them? So in strengths, we always talk about love versus should and could. You know, do I love them? And you know, sometimes I talk so much about strengths, I don't always apply it to myself. So I did sit down and do this, and immediately I looked at them and thought, I could put them in an order that really quickly about how excited I am about them. And connector would never have come up for me a few months ago. I'm too busy strengthening the world to stop and think about how I can use my connection. So it was really helpful for me to look at the energy. And I guess the piece for you to take away is, when you look at those unrealised strengths, work with the ones that are giving you the buzz, the energy, the resilience, the ones that are really going to help you right now, either help your business be more sustainable in the long term, help your family, help you to cope, help your team members. They're the ones that are really going to be, that we need you to be pulling on right now. So I looked at that, and again, it was really immediate to be sort of, oh, that one works, I've got energy, and that explainer, yeah, I've got all the webinars coming up. And then I sort of brainstormed some ideas around, you know, how I could do that. And some of them, my organisers, immediately that went to number 7. How is that going to help people right now? You know, I can strengthen the loft another day. But it came up. I've always wanted to put it on my list. But, you know, it just didn't float my boat, quite frankly. So I really encourage you to have a good look at this and think about what you've got, how energized you are by what your potential, your future. You know, this is not a time for shoulds and coulds. This is the time for giving you back something to you know, keep you going over the next few months around unrealized strengths. So I just wonder whether, you know, again, you know, what are the sorts of things that are in your unrealized strengths that you look at, if those are people that got yours to hand, and think, oh, yes, I'm really excited by that. You know, so please do share if there's something in yours that you just think, God, even if you've got no idea what that could look like and what you could do with it, just share 1 or 2 that you just think are really exciting right now.
While everybody's sharing, I'll give you an example from me for today. So I was lucky enough to go for a walk on the beach this morning. On Monday, some of the beaches opened up here, so I got to finally put my feet on the sand. It was a great morning. And then it took a little bit of a turn for the worse, and there was a big dip. And I realised that that dip was linked to prevention and adherence, which are my 2 weaknesses, and having to do the whole job keeper and read stuff and feel fed up and depressed about what's going on. But so I deliberately looked at my little chart here that's sitting blue tacked to my computer, and 2 of my unrealised strengths that actually haven't seen the light of day very much in the last few years, because I've been so busy travelling around the world, doing speeches, leadership programs, etc., are innovation and curiosity. And so I deliberately ignored everything else that was going on. I ignored my team, my emails, whatever and I spent the day designing a new program that has been on my radar and a little piece of paper I've been carrying around for about the last 2 years, and used my innovation and curiosity to look things up, explore, and I had the best day. So anything you can do around that boosts your resilience. So even when you're having a bad day, see what you've got on there that you go, right, this is what's going to trigger it for me today.
Brilliant, lovely, thank you, Sue. And there's some brilliant examples coming out already around some people combining their strengths. You've got a book in the making. I think so. We'd like the credits on that, I think, Sue, wouldn't we? And unveiling those unrealised strengths. So when we coach around unrealised strengths, we always think about what's your goal and what's your future and how can this help you. And this, we still would absolutely advocate that. But today, it's really important that you think about what you've got in your toolkit over the next few months. It's going to really help you and everybody around you as well, and where you can get some energy from. Because of course, we're all going to have good days and not so good days in terms of over the next few weeks. There are just days that just don't work, and days that do.
And there's just a comment from Barbara that says, how would you determine energy ranking? I think that in this case, Barbara, it's your view. So your profile will tell you what your top 7 are, and there's a certain level of ranking in there. But in this case, you get to pick right now which one is going to energize you more with the situation you're in.
Yeah. And there were some real, and again, this took me by surprise, some quick wins as well. Dare I say. So when I talked about pride here, I thought, everybody knows I love what I do and my job and how proud I am to work here. But actually there was a real opportunity around the kids, and they get to see me work every day, and my kids come down and they go, oh Mum, I'm getting into this piece. So I did a live Instagram interview on Saturday, and my daughter came onto it, and I was like, wow Mum, that was really good. So I think that pride is just, it's different. Everything is different. So, look at what you've got, make sure it's really strengthening you, and hopefully you can find some opportunities in something different. We are going to sort of turn the dial a bit and just look at managing weaknesses, just around, of course, we're not perfect right now. There are things going on for us, and Sue's going to share sort of some tips, I guess, around what we can do in that space if we find ourselves working a little bit more in that space when we would rather not be.
So one of the things you'll find around weaknesses, if you're familiar with your profile, is when we talk about weaknesses, we first of all look at, is there a risk? If there's no risk, you just celebrate them and leave them sitting there and think how lovely. If there is a risk, then we might need to think about what we're going to do about it. And I know I've been lucky enough to take my profile, I don't know, maybe 9 times since 2009. And it's interesting that the same weakness seems to come up time and time again. So I'm not even going to bother trying to fix it because there's really no point. It's clearly part of who I am. But the first question we've got there is, which are critical to your work or career? And you might find that it's still the same as it was before COVID-19, etc. But you may find that the risk may have changed, if any, that are critical for your resilience. Are they influencing you from a resilience perspective, and is something potentially causing you a little bit more difficulty with the challenges that are going on right now? And then again, as we always do, we look at what strengths we've got in the realised or unrealised strengths that can help us. So if one of your weaknesses is causing you a little bit of a risk right now, and I know myself, I'll tell you my top 2, and adherence is always there every single time, but prevention pops in and out, and competitive pops in and out. But right now, prevention and adherence are on my top 2. And I have to admit, when I look at the situation now, maybe if I had a bit more prevention, then I might not have to deal with some of the things that I'm dealing with right now. But also the adherence is definitely creating a bit of a risk right now, because of course, as many countries are, there's all these systems and things you have to go through. We've got this thing called JobKeeper, and we have to fill in certain forms and complete certain things. And I'm really trying to sort of focus on what I need to do. And sometimes you read these government websites and rules, and I'm getting all lost, and how do I stick to the rules, etc. And so it is a bit more of a risk right now. So again, what I'm looking at as far as that's concerned is the people around me who've got adherence as a strength, which is really useful. But also I come back to some of my top strengths to make sure I do that, which again is legacy. I've built our business over such a period of time, and we've created a real name and brand, and we know we make a difference in the world. And if I stuff up on the adherence, then potentially that legacy gets missed. I'm also using my real life strengths of organizer to compensate as well, so that I do get organized, and I'm setting up little folders to put everybody's employee job keeper folder, etc. So again, think about either from a work perspective, that's changing my work, I've never had to do that before, what could help you, but also who or what else can help you with your resilience right now. I feel quite lucky that in my real life strengths, I've got a lot of things that are actually useful. I've got resilience, I've got bounce back, I've got gratitude, optimism, those sorts of things. But if you find you've got those in your weakness quadrant, then what could you do as far as other strengths or other people or other activities that might help you mitigate any risk? And I'd love to hear some of the comments here. So Juanita's talked about time optimizer. Fine when I'm at school in my teaching job and there's clocks and bells, absolutely. So again, Juanita, don't necessarily work on your time optimizer. Find another strength that you might have, such as organizer. Or again, if worst comes to worst, alarms on your phone can be very useful.
See, there was a particularly great comment from Karen. They're all great comments, but people agreeing too that actually what's critical to your work career, but in today's environment, actually what's critical to your relationships has come up. And I think as we're all potentially working at home with our families and partners, and patience isn't a strength, actually, we haven't measured for that one. Anyone who loves data, it was number 61 and never made the cut. That would have been another weakness of mine. But you know, what are you using? What's going to really help you overcome anything that's going on there as well? So great call. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, and I just want to address Bern's comment as well about what if resilience is my weakness. Yeah. And I think the important thing there is, so what if resilience is your weakness if you've got other strengths you can draw on? It's a bit like self-belief. If you've got other strengths you can draw on, you don't need it. So don't get too caught up on that. If you've got other ones, whether it's drive or action or improver or resolver, or might be things like relationship deepener or empathy or compassion that helps you bond and connect with people, that means potentially resilience is less important.
And it's about acknowledging it as well, isn't it? So you're saying, do you know what, resilience is there for me? So if that's where I'm at, what can I do? You know, tell other people, get them to help you, and look at sort of the critical pieces. What's the impact? How does that show up, and how can my strengths help them? So we're going to look at building resilience in others. I'm clocking time. We don't have a huge amount left, and it's really important that we start to look at how we help others. We've talked, some of this pattern has come through our course of a conversation anyway. It's all about sort of others and using our strengths to support. So Sue, what we're going to ask you to do is be our little role model and demo a strengths conversation for us, if you may. So Sue, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask everybody on the call, all of you that is, just to pay attention to Sue, because I'm going to ask Sue the question of what has made her proud in the last week or so. As she's talking in the chat, what are you noticing about Sue? How is she changing potentially? What are you seeing, what are you noticing? And could you actually spot any strengths in her that are coming through as she's starting to talk? Now, Sue, in the fullness of time, I'm only going to give you a minute, love. But what has made you proud in the last week?
Two things, one thing, but two components. So I am so proud of some members of my team who have pivoted so quickly on things that I've thrown at them. So we have literally pulled off, just like this one, numerous webinars that we've done, both paid for clients, free, etc. And I've watched my team just pivot around that. I feel, the second component is then I feel so proud that I am on calls just like this one with 200, 300 people from around the world, where I get to fulfill what is most important to me, which is sharing knowledge and facilitating learning. They're my most proud moments. So I feel proud for myself that I get to just connect with so many amazing people and share learning, and my team who have just pulled it off, streamlined. So all I have to do is show up and look pretty, as they say.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. We've already got loads of comments coming through already. So the first one up was enabler. That was spotted straight up, which is fantastic, and energy in your voice. I certainly noticed your hand movement was all over the place. I thought if it wasn't virtual, she'd be punching me right now. In terms of excitement, of course, emotional awareness coming through. So yeah, lots of great strengths. Connector was down here as well. So thank you for demoing that. And I just wonder, if, Sue, do you want to just talk around sort of some of the signs then of when we are talking about our strengths, and anything else you can say in chat?
So great pickup from many of you, the enthusiasm, the energy, the rich example. So I could have talked about that for about 20 minutes, to be perfectly honest. The energy, the tone, the pace, and you picked up on all those sorts of things. The fact that you can feel the growth, the learning come through with people when they're explaining about those strengths, or they're tapping into their strengths. The language that I used, again, some of you picked up on as well. And the thing that's really cool about this, if you can use this at this point in time, ask people around you, some of you're most proud of, and then watch and see if you can feed back those strengths. And you've done a beautiful job. So service, Michelle, sometimes gets overplayed. I'm thinking about everybody else's needs before mine. Pride and narrator and humility. Again, humility can sometimes get me into trouble. I'm often sort of pushing it back. But you've picked up on them so beautifully. Spotlight, brilliant, mission, legacy again. So what you're doing when you're doing that, just in this little example here, how could you use that with others so that you watch their energy, their tone, that authenticity and passion come from them? And when you feed it back to them, think about the resilience that could be boosting in them.
So how did it make you feel looking at that? And 30 seconds, 300 people, some of you know, some you don't, all telling you what your strengths are. How does that make you feel?
It's amazing. I mean, it makes me feel less humble. But it's really good to see, because I can see that people have picked up them. And I've also been spending a bit of time, just like you recently, thinking about service and humility are the two that at the moment, even though they're not top, are a challenge for me, because I'm looking at what's working in my business, what's not. And I was chatting to a team member today, and I realized that I hadn't put myself anywhere on my piece of flip chart. So I'm always looking at what somebody else wants before I look at what I want. But it's really good that you can see those coming through. And when someone feeds it back to you, it says, yeah, actually, I can tell stories well, or I do like
It's a powerful moment. And we just saw you do it again in terms of strength spot. You sat upright. Yes, look at me, look what I've got. And someone gives that to you. We're going back to the resilience point. It's so powerful, and of course you want to hear it again. So what do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep using my strengths. I'm going to demonstrate all this great confidence, and I'm going to do a great job by using my strengths, because I want people to recognise that feedback in me, and connect with me on that level. So whether you're in as a family, as a friend, as a neighbour, really helping people to spot the great things that they are achieving and doing and being, and the wonderful person that they are, and all the things that they are contributing right now, because it's hard for us to see it, particularly if we're losing a bit of focus, and there are certainly some darker days for some people out there. So what you can do around this space is really, really important to build their resilience. So is there anything else you want to add on to that before I sort of we've only got a couple of minutes to wrap up into
1 minute left. Go for the quiz.
Where did the time go? I feel sad. So next steps, we've only got a couple of minutes, so I am going to rattle through these. Remember, most importantly, that obviously it's free for the next few days now, 8. So if you just spread the word networks, there's no barrier there to how many it can be completed. Please go for it in terms of the next steps. But practically for you, I just wanted to mention the career guide, because most of you have got this available within your profiles, and just kind of today what you might look at really around that. What does this mean for me today? So it looks at your top 6 sectors that we recommend based on your strengths, and with that today it's really around just what am I doing today, and how can I use this information to maybe just channel energy somewhere else, somewhere different. If you're career is looking a little different in the short term, or potentially in the long term, you know, what could you be doing here? What are suggestions, whether it's sales or marketing or IT, whether it's just hobbies, whether it's sport, you know, whether it's accounting and you get into numbers, but who could you be helping more based on the fact that you know that this is an area where you really shine? Remember, if you get involved in more of these areas, whether it's your job or not, whether you're just helping, whether it's a hobby, whether you're helping a partner do their job, these are areas that strengthen you, so you'll get more energy from. So think about areas that you could volunteer around this space and start to think about the future potentially, and you know, how you could find new things to do today that could maybe build up that experience and development expertise there. So to look about opportunities for the career guide. We're having some great success from it, so it's about starting a conversation. And again, you know, think about sort of any transferable skills. If you are looking for a new job later on down the line, then think about some of the things that you've got that in there that could be building for the future. And start to, you know, play with them as well. This is not saying you have to go into sales. We're saying these are some great things that we know from your strengths you're going to be great at. So please do think about you know, what's in here, how you could be doing a little bit more of that, and how you might combine them, and what today looks like and what 6 months. So use it as quite a fluid tool today, just to give you some ideas, food for thought, and for, you know, to be using your strengths more. So I'm conscious of time and people clocking off too. So the last thing I'm just going to point you towards is our best self model. Loads of free resources and videos there to help you just download different worksheets and videos explaining more around strengths. So that's definitely there for you. And of course, your resources are Sue and myself. I think I've never had such a fun webinar. So thank you for engaging with us all, and your comments and sharing and your authenticity. But we're here also for you as a resource. So over to you to say goodbye.
Thank you, Trudy. Thank you so much. And I genuinely mean it when I say, please email me if there's anything I can do to help. For some reason, my website's not on there, but it's just langleyGroup.com.au. But feel free to jump on, because as well as the strengths profile, there's a whole load of resources there. On ours, on the resources tab, you'll also find an ebook of working with strengths and things like that you can download as well. So please contact me if there's anything I can do. And it's been an absolute pleasure doing what I love this evening.
Thank you, Sue. And Sue will just get that amended before we send the slides out to everybody. So you'll have Sue's website address there. And again, just thank you. Be careful, be safe, enjoy what you do have every day, make the most of it and make the most of your strengths. It will help you become more resilient. Thank you.